in a classroom, like, because I'm used to teaching pre-K, and then I switched this year to like I'm a floater, and then I'm going to be teaching nature class next week. So it was like hard being stuck in a classroom, but like past week or two, I don't know how long it's been anymore.
The theme of the city, which is like
nice. It's like being able to like bounce around and see everybody.
Are you always going to be teaching it later?
You know, like a movie theater slanted.
Yeah, so it'll be Tuesday, Thursdays from like 2:30 to 3. I'll have like all the classes and that kind of other stuff. Yeah, I'm excited.
That's
All right.
so cool.
No idea.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hey. Thank you for coming. Glad you're here. For those of us who may be new and not quite familiar with what our practice usually is here, we're gonna join in being with some guided meditation for a little bit, and then we'll have some just silence, and then we'll sing something, and then move into sharing some of the words of the weekday evening tefillah together. And I have a little Devar Torah topic by request, and we'll get to that. All right.
The one that was
Yes.
well due for
Yes.
many weeks.
Yeah. Well, I'll even go one. Come around. I'll even go one better than that, which is that actually is something that I have been thinking about using as the basis for a high holiday sermon for about the past 6 years, and something else always comes up, and I never do. So this also gives me a chance to sort of workshop my Yom Kippur sermon, which is. I feel like I need to send each of you a check for giving me that.
Your Yom Kippur sermon about walking in lonely was amazing, Rabbi Folberg.
Thank you. All right. So let me, as always, encourage you to give some attention to being comfortable and finding a position in your seat that enables you to be as comfortable and as relaxed and at ease as you can. And if you are comfortable with the experience of closing your eyes, or just letting your eyes be gently closed, you can do that. Can be a nice way of beginning to draw your attention into your physical lived experience, how it feels to be in your unique body in this moment, in this place. I was thinking earlier about really a master teacher, a master Jewish educator named Dr. Michael Zeldin, who taught at the California campus of Hebrew Union College, but just out of sheer good fortune happened to be visiting and teaching at the New York school that Rabbi Levy and I attended separate times, years apart. And he was our education professor, and really one of the people who was a great influence in my life and in my work, and who really taught all of us how to be teachers. And I will always remember that he said teaching is the practice of meeting someone where they are and then leading them to someplace new. And then he paused, I guess, for effect, and said, if you haven't done the first step, you can't do the second step. If you haven't met your student where they are, you can't take them by the hand and lead them somewhere new. And so I'd like to bring that same intention into our practice this afternoon. And that is that this time that we have together can also be a time to learn and to grow. And that whatever unfolds begins with meeting yourself exactly where you are. There's a larger truth here that all growth begins with acceptance. So in this simple and physical way, see what it might be like to let go of any judgment about what this time should be like, or about how you should feel, or what your emotions or thoughts should be. This famous psychologist had this motto, "I will not should on myself today." So no shoulds and no oughts and no judgment. Instead, we can come to this time in the spirit of that beautiful little interpretive, playful twist on the line from Ma Tovu that we sing in the morning. Va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon, which can be playfully translated as, "And I am my prayer to you, Adonai." My truest and deepest prayer is me. It is my life, including the doubt and the confusion and the frustration, and also the joy, and also the growth and goodness and compassion and love. And so, just as our teacher taught us that education is the process of meeting someone where they are, it may be that this experience of turning inward, of taking time to remember that you have, you can call it a soul, an inner life, an energy, but that this too begins with exactly where you are, because you are the greatest prayer that you have. All of it. Your life. That's the prayer. So let yourself be exactly who you are and where you are. See what a relief it can be to loosen the grip on judgment and evaluation and just be. Abraham Joshua Heschel taught that Shabbat is a day not to do, but to be. So let yourself have a little bit of that Shabbat perspective, that Shabbat experience. So, see what it's like to allow your focus, your awareness, to just very gently and lightly shift toward noticing how it feels to be inhaling and then exhaling. What's it like to be breathing? Again, we're not thinking about the breath, just experiencing this nishmat chayim, as the Torah says, this breath of life that sustains us. Noticing the sensation of the air moving into the mouth or nose, feeling the rib cage and the abdomen and the chest expand on the in-breath, and then contract as the breath is released. We'll spend a minute or two just being with and taking an interest in this breathing. And whenever you suddenly become aware that your mind has wandered off, that you've forgotten about the breath, no judgment, no criticism. It's the natural thing for our minds to do, so just without any evaluation or comment, just in that moment of waking back up, just come back to the breath. So let's sing together. It's been a while since we sang these words from Tehillim, from the book of Psalms in the Hebrew. It's also in the Song of the Sea, Shirat Hayam. And the words are Ozi v'zimrat ya. Ozi v'zimrat ya. Don't worry about the Hebrew if it's unfamiliar. My strength and my stronghold are Yah, which is a very interesting Hebrew word for God. Vayehi li lishua, and this is a refuge for me. You might translate it. So we'll sing this through a bunch of times, and you can hum along or sing as you pick it up. But it goes like this. Ozi v'zimrat Yah. Vayehi li lishua, and that repeats. Ozi v'zimrat Yah. Vayehi li lishua. Second part. Ozi v'zimrat Yah. Vayehi li lishua. Ozi v'zimrat Yah. Vayehi li lishua. That's the whole thing. Ozi v'zimrat Yah. Vayehi li lishua. Ozi v'zimrat ya. Vayehi li lishua. Ozi v'zimrat ya. Vayehi li lishua. Ozi v'zimrat ya. Vayehi li lishua. So do take your time. No need to rush. If you've had your eyes closed, when you're ready, you can just gently let them open. And we are going to dip into some of the weekday evening tefillah. Are there prayer books around?
Yes, third. Grab some.
Oh, thank you for grabbing some. Okay, so you don't have to take a prayer book. If you want one, there on the table, it looks like back there. And okay, all right. Thank you for being so helpful, everybody. We're gonna pick up with page 4, the weekday evening service of Baruch Hu. I'll note when it's traditional to stand and sit, and if you want to stay seated, that's fine. But Baruch Hu's on page 4. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. And on page 6 for the evening, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, B'chokhmah Poteach Sha'arim, ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu L'Olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. And on page 8, Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael, Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu lemadeta, Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shachveinu u'bekumeinu, Nasiach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha, Le'olam va'ed, Ki heim chayenu, Ve'orech yameinu, U'vahem negeh, Yomam v'layla. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. You're welcome to have a seat, and we're going to continue chanting the V'ahavta over on page 12. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher Anochi Mitzavacha Hayom Alevavecha Vishinantam Levanecha Vidibarta Bam Beshivtecha Bevetecha Uvelechtecha Vaterech Ushoch Becha Uvekumecha Uksharatam leot ayadecha Vehayu letotafot bein einecha Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha Leman tizkeru Va'asitem et kol mitzvotai Litem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiyot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. On page 16, last time we tried out using some of the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, High Holy Day nusach, some of the melodies, and we did it for Micha Mocha. Maybe we'll use a bit more for the Tefillah as well. But let's do this one. If you may remember this. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefele. Let's do that again. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefele. Malachutecha ra'uvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam ze'elianu v'yameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov u'ga'alo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Page 18. I don't know who said this as I was setting the computer up in the back and the streaming up in the back. I just overheard someone's voice say, "I need this today." And my thought was, me too. So, Ufros alenu sukat shlomecha, spread over us a shelter of peace and sleep and rest tonight, that we might wake up tomorrow with renewed energy for our lives. So, third line. Uferos aleinu sukat, sukat, shlomecha. Uferos aleinu sukat, sukat, shlomecha. Ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Uferos aleinu sukat, sukat, shlomecha. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la. The Reader's Kaddish, Chatzi Kaddish, is on page 20. Yikada v'yikada shemei Rabba v'yalma divrachi rute v'yamlich malchute b'chaychon v'mechon u'b'chayrecho beit Yisrael b'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen Yehi shmei Rabba mivarach la'alam olamei amaya yitborach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'ama v'imru amen. So the Amidah, the weekday prayer, starts on page 74. As we usually do, we'll sing the first few of the Hebrew blessings together on the even-numbered pages, and then just go off on our own and take time for your own personal thoughts and prayers. And if you're standing, you can sit whenever you feel like you're finished. So those who wish to rise, we're on page 74. Are we going to try the High Holiday Nasach today? We'll save it for another week, next week. All right. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, u'mei gula livnei v'neihem, l'ma'an shemo v'yahava, melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham v'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei hakol, atah rav l'hoshia, morid hatal. Mechakel chayim b'chesed, mechayei hakol b'rachamim rabim, somech noflim v'rofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, u'midon melach, melech meimit u'mechayei, u'matzmiach yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai b'chayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, v'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Ose shalom bimromav, huyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Hey everybody, good evening, Erev Tov. So yes, tonight, having forgotten to do this for weeks and weeks and by request, but finally tonight having remembered, we had a question. Jeffrey had asked the question, is not actually the only person that asked this question. Why, when we get to this concluding prayer of Aleinu, do we use this sticker on the inside back cover? So, and as I mentioned before, some of y'all got here, not phrased in exactly the same way, but the question of like this Aleinu that we use, this text, and why is something that I have been toying with giving a high holiday sermon about for the past 5-6 years, and something else has always just come up that seemed more pressing or urgent. So let me say a little bit about this. First of all, this is, and I'm going to really try to condense this because there's a lot here. In a way, this is a really timely thing to be talking about right now heading into Rosh Hashanah, because originally, Aleinu was not the conclusion of the service. Originally, Aleinu was part of the service, I believe, on Rosh Hashanah, I think it's afternoon, when we do a version of the Aleinu called the Great Aleinu. Now, I don't think anybody here, well, that's not true. I grew up in a synagogue, a conservative synagogue that did this. I'm guessing that many of you have never seen it. But for the Great Aleinu, it was the one time of the year when we get to the part that says, Va'anachnu kore'im u'mishtachavim u'odim, we therefore bend the knee and bow before the ruler over all the rulers of the rulers. And that's why people bow when they do Va'anachnu, because the words mean we therefore bow. The custom for the Great Aleinu on Rosh Hashanah was for the Shaliach Tzibur, the prayer leader, let's say the cantor, to literally prostrate themselves, like get down on their hands and knees in front of the ark. It's like very, very dramatic. That's originally where it was, and eventually, for reasons I no longer remember, it's not so important, it was moved to this part, kind of penultimate part near the end of the service, but it originally was on Rosh Hashanah. One of the things that Aleinu, as a prayer, as we'll see in a second, raises is, in the context of Jewish identity, what Professor Borowitz, of blessed memory, our philosophy professor, HUC, talked about the tension in Judaism between universalism and particularism. Okay, so particularism means I am part of this particular group called the Jewish people. Right, part of my identity is I am Jewish. Universalism being my concern, let's say, for the broader human family. Right, I'm Jewish. Right, I care about Jewish culture and the fate of the Jewish people, and I care about the whole world. And one of the things that Dr. Borowitz said to us is, this, this sort of ugliest form of this tension being used historically as a way to sort of club Jews was something that actually used to be called Jew baiting. And Jew baiting was when somebody would say to somebody, well, if Israel and the United States got into a war, like, whose side would you be on? Which is just a question made which is a question designed to like question Jewish, are Jews really trustworthy citizens of the countries they live in, that sort of thing. Aleinu has a long history, actually, which we don't have time for, but has a long, interesting history of being sort of wrestled with by Jews and the Jewish community, and also by the larger Jewish world that sometimes use the traditional text of Aleinu as a way of like beating up on the Jewish community around the issue of what classically was called the doctrine of chosenness, right? You Jews think you're the chosen people. Like, what is that? That is to say that the traditional text of Aleinu leans very heavily into the particularism piece, right, and not the universalism piece. Jewish communities, got in trouble because of Aleinu in its traditional form. And the Reform movement really wrestled with it as well, because when Reform Judaism was percolating and having its gestation in Western Europe in the 1800s, when Jews had been given citizenship for the first time, right, and were actually allowed to be French Jews, German Jews, Italian Jews, right, the Enlightenment, and it being allowed to be part of society, there really was this wrestling with like, what do we make of this prayer? Also, by the way, I have to say, one of the big innovations of what became Reform and later Conservative Judaism was translating the prayer book into the vernacular, right? There were lots of Jews, pious Jews, who prayed and didn't really know what the words meant, right? Suddenly, when it's translated, you're like, wait, we've been saying this? Like, we believe this? Like, do we, right? And part of what comes out of that is decades of prayer book reform. Anyway, take a look. God, we don't have time for that. Okay. We're really just going to skim the surface of this. If you have a prayer book, open to page 586 and 587. All right? One of the ways that you know that the text of Aleinu is challenging, because in Mishkan Tefillah, the layout is a mess. Right? It's kind of a mess. And I will show you the mess. Okay? If you go to page 586, right, what you see is a somewhat gerrymandered, edited version of the traditional text, the closest to like what you would find at a Agudas Achim in the like conservative prayer book, right? Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gedula liotzer v'reshit shelo asanu kugoyei ha'aratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpechot hadama. By the way, in some ways, like the hardest part of all this is finding a way to like quote unquote fix the prayer while still making it fit into the melody. Because the words, but people like nobody wants to mess with the melody, right? So if you look at the English, right, let us now praise the sovereign of the universe and proclaim the greatness of the Creator, who has set us apart from the other families of the earth, giving us a destiny unique among the nations. We bend the knee and bow, acknowledging the supreme sovereign, the Holy One of Blessing, right? So there is again, without like going too deep a dive in this, there is, and I said it's gerrymandered because some really problematic phrases, even in traditional prayer books, were eventually dropped. But it's pretty statement of like, we are celebrating our uniqueness and our sense of having a unique destiny. Okay? If you go right above that, this is the version that Reform prayer books used for a long time. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latei kedula liotzer v'reshit. Right? Again, let us praise the sovereign of the universe, proclaim the greatness of the Creator. But then, right, instead of going into Shelo asanu k'gei ha'aratzot, who has not made us like the other families of the nations, it skips over all that and actually goes to a later paragraph that says, Shehu noteh shamayim v'yosei et aretz, right, we praise God who spread out the heavens and established the earth, Umoshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'al, and whose glory is proclaimed in the heavens above and manifests throughout the world. So this is praise of God, edited in such a way that the particularism kind of piece is just sort of like, right? It's not there. Okay. Now, let's see. Here at the top is another version that I haven't seen it used in too many Reform congregations. It also sort of, it's kind of gives the kind of like, it's great to be Jewish, well, again, sort of like tying it to, which is a traditional idea, tying it to kind of like what is our mission as Jews, right? So, in each case, it fits the melody. They were sure about that, right? No matter how sliced and diced it is. Let us praise the sovereign universe, proclaim the greatness of the Creator. It's all the same, right? Whose unity we are charged to declare, whose realm is our purpose to uphold. Yeah, we have this mission in the world to do tikkun olam and to unify what is broken. Okay, now, right? Go to the sticker on the inside back cover. This is a version that we discovered in the latest edition of the High Holiday Prayer Book, Mishkan HaNefesh. This is where this appears, right? Again, it fits, right? The words fit the melody. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'teit gedula li'otzer b'reshit, right? You know, we praise God who created everything. And then, new words. Shehu asanu k'shomrei ha'adama, which means who has made us protectors of the earth. V'hu samanu kishlei haTorah, and who has positioned us as emissaries of Torah, as ambassadors of Torah. Shehu samcha achayenu itam. Okay, instead of saying shehu sam, wait a minute. Shalo asanu k'gerei haratzot, who has not made us like the other peoples of the earth, giving us unique destiny. Here it's shehu sam chayenu itam, who has placed our lives with theirs, meaning all humanity, right? V'goralenu im kol ha'olam, and our fate being bound up with that of the whole world, right? That we are part of humanity. We have our uniqueness, we have our culture, we have the things we love as Jews, and we recognize that our fate is bound up with the fate of the whole world. And particularly, given the weather this summer, I mean, no joke, right? Yeah, like our fate is bound up with the fate of the whole world, right? It's not separate. And because environmental concerns is something that really hits hard for me, and because Sarah Avner and I, we sort of looked at this and said, you know what, let's just make this the version that we do. Because once you start translating things, it's nice to actually say things that you believe and that really matter to you. So it's taking this form of Aleinu, it's saying we praise God, right, beyond all the sort of human structures and institutions. That's uppermost. But there's a time to really talk about, in the pendulum of universal to particular, there's a time to really lean into the universal, and this prayer is sort of saying, this is a time to lean into the universal, right? And by the way, in terms of the sort of this idea I mentioned earlier about sort of, Jew baiting and where are your loyalties and what do you care about, Borowitz used to say for him the tension was resolved. He said, my concern with all humanity grows out of my Judaism. It grows out of my Jewish values. I don't see a conflict there, right? I care about my concern for the fate of the world is rooted in the way I understand Judaism. So they don't have to be like this. So he said. So, how's that, Jeffrey? Is that all right?
That was a lot. Thanks.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
You had to do a lot of research, didn't you?
Some, and also, like I said, I've every year when I write a sermon, it's like there's a file called, Rosh Hashanah, blah, 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 and there's a file called Rosh Hashanah, blah, junk, right? And it's like the stuff that gets highlighted, cut, and stuck in this other file. Well, that sucks, I'll put that over there, and maybe it sucks, but maybe I can find a way to use it, that's sort of the writing process. So there have been many, there are probably somewhere I've got junk files that say talk about Aleinu, and they're like, nah, yeah. All right, anyway. Okay, you guys, Aleinu. Yay. So listen, if this is what I talk about on Kol Nidre, and you don't just want to I was gonna say go out and get a snack, not on Kol Nidre. You want to go out and chat, go to the bathroom, whatever. I'll look up and I'm like, oh, they were there that night, so they don't have to stay. All right. Anyway. Okay. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, la'tei gedula li'otzer b'reshit, Shehu asanu k'shomrei ha'adama, v'hu samanu k'shlichei ha'torah. Shehu sam chayenu itam, v'goraleinu im kol ha'olam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz. Bayom ha'ahu yeh Adonai echad. U'shemo echad. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. Does anybody have somebody that they want to remember? Anybody whose name they want to mention? Okay, so page 598, we'll join together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yalmad yivarach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'vizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach la'olam u'la'omei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudesha b'richu, ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'yalma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. So we'll make a circle here. I'm sorry this is kind of awkwardly in the middle. Anybody wants to come up? And we'll, we make a little circle, we do a parting blessing. You are invited and more than welcome to come up. Yay. All right. May we be strengthened in these days and weeks and hours leading up to the new Jewish year by a sense of oneness and community and solidarity with our loved ones, with our congregation and community, and ultimately with all who dwell on earth. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may the Holy One bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'choneka, may the Holy One shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, may the Eternal be with you and help you to find peace in a world of healing, equality, safety, justice, and peace for all who dwell on earth. And together we say, Amen. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks to you.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
No, that's wonderful to have you all here. Thanks a lot. Thanks for making the time.
Right.
Yeah. If anybody is able to just take a second to just get the chairs back the way they were, that would be really great.
I'll put the pair books down.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
This one I think actually stays up here. It's marked up, but.
I did.
And I.
Oh, right.
We're gonna see when you retire. We built a freighter.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Oh, thank you.